The elderly guy had not made enough money to purchase a meal at midday. With the last of his remaining power, he continued to push the pallet cart. He had to sell anything he had that day in order to pay his daughter, and the heat was unforgiving. She would drive him out of the house if he was unable to. The elderly man, according to her, was a barrier. Don Noel is a diligent individual. Together with Toledo, his wife, he had 3 children. The Lord provided everything his children could possibly need, but his advanced age was becoming gloomy, as his daughter Pamela had taken over the household and was charging him for everything. Don Noel spent his whole working life in the facility that produced the delectable flavored popsicles, the ice cream factory. He believed that he would at last have a less hectic existence after retirement. But Doña Toledo was sick, and he had to take care of her. 2 of their children, Pamela and her brother, were living overseas. They sent money to help their parents, and they were always conscious of them. Doña Toledo suffered a stroke, and her daughter volunteered to look after her. Her parents were taken aback by her approach, as she had previously shown them little affection. Don Noel was relieved with the news, though, since he was sick of taking care of his wife and doing everything around the house. Her parents were shocked that Pamela had consented to move into the house with her. All was not well, though, as the woman ordered her parents to a smaller room and removed them from the main room. After a week, Don Noel saw his son-in-law and daughter were becoming lethargic at home, which worried him greatly. The daughter cleaned the home and took care of her mother, but she was not even interested in cooking throughout the remainder of the day. She would frequently refuse to give them anything to eat, as she would demand money from her father to get meals from restaurants. Because of her exceptional persuasive abilities, the woman was able to persuade Don Noel to sign a power of attorney designating her as his retirement attorney. The elderly guy did it, and it was the beginning of the end for him. Giving his daughter complete confidence really came at a high cost to him. She also stopped receiving the remittances that the other kids sent. Don Noel's blood pressure was so out of whack that he ended up on an emergency stretcher when Pamela took over his pension and refused to provide him money for even his prescriptions. The fact that the elderly guy could not even afford to buy his wife anything made him feel more financially devastated. Even though he was accustomed to their high degree of independence, he felt somewhat helpless now that they were in Pamela's care. "Dad, please unwind." The woman responded to the elderly man, "I don't know why you worry if I sacrificed myself by leaving my house to see you guys, and I see you worried anyway." The elderly guy did not respond at all. Instead, he just kept staring at the doctor, who was able to read the troubled man's expression. The wife was berating him the entire way home when they picked him up. She informed him that she would no longer put up with his performing in public, as he enjoyed grabbing attention. Don Noel was not silent. On the inside, he was thinking through his options for breaking free from his daughter's influence. As the days went by, Doña Toledo's condition worsened, which worried Don Noel even more, as he wasn't sure how he would handle life without his wonderful wife. "Dude, I'm sorry, but leaving you in Pamela's care stings. Our daughter is not worthy. Why you granted her authority to manage your money is beyond me," the woman added. "The little money is naked. One should not offer it to anyone unless there is no other option. Daughter, sometimes life is difficult." Don Noel said, "I don't know when I gave in to her pressure to give her my pension, but right now, not even crying will help." Doña Toledo resisted going to the doctor when she needed one, telling her parents, "It's crazy. I'm not going to call a doctor. Please go take care of this lady. There is no need to waste money on a doctor, and there is no solution for her." Pamela cried, "I don't want you to keep interrupting me while I'm watching my soap opera. As you can see, Pamela, you spend money on everything but me. The doctor will get paid with my money, which you were meant to administer. That's why I'm not asking for anything. It's unjust that even if it costs you nothing at all, you won't even want to hire a doctor to treat your own mother." The guy furiously said, "I demand that you call the doctor if you don't want me to make a fuss." When the woman began phoning her husband, Pamela became enraged and prepared to phone the doctor. He hurried to her side, grasped her hand, and reassured her that everything will work out. The elderly mother gave him a tight grasp on the hand and pleaded with him to make sure the daughter wasn't left at home because she wasn't treating them properly. When she abruptly took her last breath, they were both in tears. The wife covered the cost of the funeral. She refused to allow them to bring anything to the elderly guy, accepting all assistance from the neighbors and Don Noel's previous employers. The woman came dressed differently on the day of the burial and went shopping with her husband. After dining at a classy restaurant, they went home to find Don Noel in tears. "Dude, why are you in this place?" "By now you ought to be in bed," Pamela remarked. "I'm sad, I'm not sleepy, and I need to eat something, but there's nothing in the fridge. Since I didn't purchase anything for you, you can actually go to sleep at this time. I won't be searching, so wait now," Pamela stated. Full of excessive melancholy and hunger, Noel walked to his room. There was no breakfast the following day, so the elderly guy visited Don Alfonso, a friend for his whole life. The man welcomed him with open arms, and he took meals from him for the first time in his life. Doña Gloria gave him hot tortillas with chorizo and eggs, and the elderly guy finished everything on the platter. He even requested more. Pamela was enraged and told him they needed to talk when he got home. "Look, Dad, here is where things are going to shift. I'm used to working so you can feed since you can't exist without contributing, and with your pension, I can barely afford basic necessities. I can live comfortably alone thanks to my pension, so you and your spouse may return home whenever you'd like. I am capable of caring for myself," Don Noel answered. "You lack gratitude. We are here to look after you, so don't leave with this. Anything you say will remain here. However, are you really seeking for a job, huh?" Pamela shot back. Don Noel went 2 days without eating anything since his daughter was certain that she wouldn't feed him if they didn't have money, even if she and her husband were enjoying lavish feasts. He went to the popsicle factory a few blocks from his residence on the 3rd day, begging to be allowed to sell with an ice cream cart. Despite their lack of understanding, the owner ultimately gave in to Don Noel's desperation and gave him the chance since they loved and valued him so much. He took his popsicle cart outside that day with the small bells tinkling, but nobody wanted to purchase. He made the decision to head for a school around mid-morning, and he was successful. When he finally sold all of the ice cream, he used the money he raised to buy sugar, milk, and oatmeal so he would always have something in the cupboard. The woman was relieved that the old man had a job, so she explained that he would now need to give over a large sum of money every Friday for his food. If he did not carry the agreed amount, she would become very angry. But on that particular Friday, when the sale went poorly and he did not meet the agreed-upon amount, the daughter reassured him that there was nothing to worry about because she had made dinner and dessert for him. He gave them some paperwork to sign at the conclusion of the meal, claiming it was to be an insurance policy. The elderly guy, however, would not sign. Instead, he informed her that he was completely blind without his spectacles and assured her that they would be delivered signed the next morning. The woman and her husband were certain that this certificate was their ticket to happiness since they had faith in Don Noel. They failed to account for the elderly man's continued spark, though. With the paperwork in hand, he left his residence early the next day and went straight to a friend of his who practiced law. The young guy informed him that his daughter would become the legitimate owner of the house if he signed the papers that would deprive him of it. Don Noel was about to face Pamela since he was so agitated, but the attorney told him to cool off. The expert drafted 2 documents, one to request the bad daughter's removal from the home and another to rescind the authority granted to take the Lord's pension. He had to get involved with the police because Pamela locked all the doors and kicked the lawyer out of the house. The woman emerged to clarify that it was her residence and not her father's when the media showed there for that reason. Following the images airing on television, she was identified by officials in a different city who requested her arrest on many occasions for allegedly robbing old people of their houses and pensions. Actually, when Pamela's mother-in-law found out that her son and daughter-in-law had taken her own house, she passed away from a heart attack. Because of Don Noel's boldness in quitting his job and living off of his retirement savings, Pamela and her husband were sentenced to prison and had to pay for the crimes they had committed. The children who lived overseas brought him a phone so that his neighbors could keep a closer eye on him. I appreciate you seeing. Would you kindly like and post the video on social media? We'll respond to you as soon as we can.